Yeah, back for another interview today with CEO and founder of Fetch.ai, as well as chairman of the Artificial Super Intelligence Alliance, Humayun Shaikh. Nice to see you today, sir.
Nice to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been following Fetch.ai for a while now, and it's definitely an honor to get to talk to you for a little bit here today and ask you some questions that are on my mind. So, um, I'd like to just jump straight in here. I'm always interested in like how when I'm talking to somebody in tech and especially crypto, since that's my passion, how you got started in technology in the technology business and what your origin story in crypto is.
I was kind of born in technology, so love physics, love computing. That's my first degree, second degree, computer science. Then got into gaming. From gaming, got into DeepMind. So I was the first investor, first five people who started DeepMind, and we exited DeepMind in 2014, 2013, 2014. And then at that point, I was quite interested in looking at commercialization aspect of AI, which, as we all know, it's now coming about, but it's an interesting problem. It's kind of a dilemma in where AI is built by bigger corporations, a lot of data, and then to commercialize it, it's quite difficult unless it's just done by industry, which they've been doing machine learning and AI for quite a while. So that's kind of how I got started at looking into decentralized ledger technology, trying to work out how these agents can actually interact with each other, and blockchain felt like a very natural fit. And then kind of bringing data, bringing agents all together. That's how we got Fed started in 20 end of 2018, early 2019. So we've been around for a while. Focus has always been multi-agent system using machine learning and AI to make them more intelligent, make them collaborate with each other and carry out tasks. And as you can see, now kind of everybody is on that kind of bandwagon.
Yeah, absolutely. AI is like one of the key buzzwords around the world right now. But what was like the what was the moment where you saw the merger, the actual like merger between these two technologies? Were you messing around with or playing around on Ethereum, or were you already on executing some smart contracts on another network, or how did that look like? What did that look like?
So, I mean, it's ledger technologies. I mean, we started from databases really. How do agents collaborate using databases? And then it became quite apparent that if all the agents are going to be worldwide, how do you get them together on one database, which is quite unlikely. So it's okay to have different databases controlling or different services controlling different agents, which is not a problem, which is fine. But then you come to the auditability of it, because if the agents are using AI and they are doing something, doing some action, and you can see that now also, in the reasoning kind of thing, what Mistral did as well, what reasoning does, it actually justifies why it does something. And that's okay. Everybody has to keep a record of it. And if you start keeping a record of it, then it's the security and privacy issues which come in play. So how do you solve this conundrum of making sure safety and security is there, making sure auditability is there, and actually orchestrating the agents to do something while using machine learning and AI models, and actually building those models and then utilizing those models. So all of these things kind of pointed towards Ethereum, because that was kind of the only blockchain. And then we started looking at improving the blockchain, which we did, and we launched like an initial test net of our own kind of useful proof of work kind of, where we combined machine learning and AI into it. But what was very clear is that traction in this market comes from financial instruments. So we kind of parked that, and we felt that we should go into another ecosystem where there are already developers building. So Ethereum was completely out of question because at that point it was just too slow, too basic, and we looked at whatever we can find which was more composable, which was more modular, and Cosmos felt like a very good choice. So we actually built our own layer one on Cosmos. I mean, there are many chains now which could be better, but realistically, we're chain agnostic. It's not chain does not matter because what matters is really if we can get actual agents, interoperable and getting working.
Yeah, Cosmos SDK is pretty awesome. I've been following you guys since you were on that. You were on Cosmos, so it's pretty cool. I lost your video. I don't know.
It's probably doing some weird thing again.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, great. Um, just moving on here to the artificial. As I noted in the intro, you're the chairman of the Artificial Superintelligence group or committee, however you say it. What is that merger been like? The integration. What have you learned from that forming this coalition?
Well, what we've learned is that a lot of community didn't like it. They don't like it. What we also learned is technologically that's very interesting because as a single project, if you think about what we have right now, so we were focusing just on agents. We still are focusing on agents as Fetch. But what also becomes very clear is that under that, you need a lot of things. And when you're building for Web3, it's quite difficult to actually say to get the right SLAs. So, you want the agents to stay up and on all the time. Now, if you start relying on 10 different projects to integrate with, it takes a lot of time to take their separate tokens, do the conversions every time you use their service. That's a nightmare. So what we felt the best thing to do in technological terms was to actually put a tech stack together, which kind of integrated the whole stack. So if you look at application building, like the agentic framework, we have that, so you can build applications. If you look underneath it, you want machine learning AI LLM. We have the first Web3 based LLM, which is specifically built for Web3 agents. So the two components are Web3 wallet connectivity, wallet operations connected with agents, interoperability with different chains. So we have that. And, if you think about LLMs, I mean, LLM alone, look at the value of each of these companies who come up with this, right? Yes, we know DeepSeek has kind of changed the model slightly, but still, if you have a decent LLM, you're valued at 10 billion plus, right? So you can see all the examples which are out there. So we have that. We have our own one of those. We've kind of trained it. It's there for you to try it out. I think the website is called ASI One.ai. You can try it out. We compete with all the major models. The benchmarking shows quite good results. So to do that, you need to go slightly further underneath. You need people building algorithms, people doing research to actually train these models and actually create these models which are more adaptive to agentic systems. So that needs a lot of research. So Singularity brought that into the mix in terms of what they were doing, a lot of research, a lot of products based on machine learning and AI. Then you go underneath it. What does it all run on? It runs on data, really. So how do you get data into these machine learning models? So we have Ocean, who does that specific portion. So you can see where we're going with this. So then you have the data. Then how do you actually get the compute to actually train these models and to serve the inference, to then connect them to the agents, then connect them to the LLM? For that, we have Cudos, which we merged with which does compute platform. So it's a decentralized compute platform. So now if you think about building something meaningful, real, you need all those components, and we have all of them. Now, so when you say how does it go? I mean, I want to be very kind of open and honest about it. Of course, there's technical complications, and but we're overcoming those. Not a big problem. Community sees this as some kind of dilution of token, which it isn't, because you've taken all these communities and you put them all together. That's not dilution. You're just kind of keeping the same. But the biggest point is nobody actually fully sees what actually it is achieving. What you're achieving is if you look at the valuations, and if you look at, as I said, LLM value. I mean, if you have an LLM, you should be valued at 10 billion plus. I mean, that's what fundraising is happening at the moment. Where is Fetch valued? And this is, the dichotomy of reality and crypto. It's like we're valued at around 1.5 billion right now. So, I mean, how does it relate to the real world? Nobody knows. But that has been a challenge trying to explain to people why we did this and what value does it bring to the world. And I mean, if you look at compute itself, I mean, having a compute platform where you can actually deploy compute, what is the value, right? I mean, you look at the normal business side of things, you have these companies valued at 3, 5 billion, you know, just the compute itself. We also have that. So as part of the whole stack. So that's where we have had some difficulty, but I'm sure once the craze of meme coins is over, before something else comes along, real world solutions will become important for people and we'll start seeing some change.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. I got in this space for the real world utility as somebody who's interested in economics. So I appreciate what you guys are building. And yeah, I've had Ocean on in the past, and what they're I was curious about. That was one of the questions I want to ask you about. Wanted to ask you, and you kind of jumped me there about the integration of their data. So that's cool to hear about. So ASI Mini it's I've read quite a bit about it, but it is you can deploy that to any network basically or any layer one.
It's, I mean, that's kind of, um, the question doesn't kind of fit in the way that, you can use LLMs, right? You can
Mhm.
use any LLM. Deploying it on the chain, I don't know what that could mean, but any chain can use it, and you actually don't pay for it. What you do is you just put your FET in it and you go up the tiers. As soon as you take your FET out, you don't get the service. So you're not actually paying for it. You're effectively just staking your FET and then using the service. The more you stake, the higher level of service you can get. But ultimately, as you take the FET out, it costs you nothing. So you still have the same number of FET. So we don't actually use your FET. We just give you the service by just putting the FET in, which is a different kind of economic model to anything that is out there. And since there is no other LLM in the market for Web3, we're the only ones who can supply that. Now, if you suggest asking, can any chain use it for any purpose? Yes, but obviously you need to integrate with the APIs.
Mhm.
You need to integrate with the agents to get the response. Now, can the agent sit on any chain? Yes. So in a roundabout way, your question, the answer is you can integrate it with any chain.
Yeah, I was curious about that because if you could integrate it with any chain, it just makes that network so much bigger, and the LLM is learning along the way, right? Because you're potentially getting that data back
Yeah.
to your company, right? Right.
Well, I mean, again, it's not to the company. It's because it's going to be an open source. It's going to be what is also quite interesting, which is again the economic model we want to use is a more Web3 model, which is who owns who owns the revenue from these models? Because don't forget, LLM is one big model. It's a language model. We're also working on building a lot of specialist models. We can come to that when we discuss the product itself. But who owns it? So what we are creating is a mechanism for people to actually own this model. And that's how we're trying to build it. So that's also an economically interesting concept.
Okay. Yeah, tell us more about the product. I mean, if you don't mind, I'll just go into it a little bit further.
Yeah, so product itself, Fetch builds the application layer where you have the agents. So you can actually build the agents, you can deploy the agents. You have an LLM, which you actually, we're having an integration with the agent. So you can actually use the LLM to interact with the agents. You can actually get these agents to do stuff based on what you're actually either inquiring or asking the LLM to do. It can go to the agent verse. So if you're building an agent on any network, any chain, any platform, you can actually register your agent on Agentverse, which is like the nexus of agents. So you can actually lodge your agent in it, and then that agent becomes discoverable to the LLM. So you can actually call it from the LLM. So if you think about tool calling from through the LLMs, what you're doing is you're kind of making that tool more intelligent. You're making it more agentic. You're adding a cognitive layer on the agent. So the agent can also make some decisions and interact with each other. So you can actually build an application and then you can actually query it from the LLM, and you can use the LLM on any application. So you don't have to just use ASI based user interface or fetch based user interface. You can build your own user interface. You can use the API. And the beauty is that you're not actually, when people query, you're not actually paying anything for it effectively. You're staking your FET token to get to that. So that's that side. Then you go underneath, then you have all the knowledge graphs and building your context. So we have a product which is attached to the ASI One mini, and you can actually add documents to it. So all that research based, you can actually add a lot of your database into it, your preferences into it, or your customers can do the same. And so that's a service that's available, which actually links to how you query the LLM. And then underneath it, you have this ability to connect to different models. So our LLM is based on a mixture of agents. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this mixture of expert kind of architecture that happens in LLMs. But we take that a step further where we have a mixture of agents. So you interact with tools and agents. Then you have a mixture of models. We kind of proponent of not building just one big model, but actually having specialist models, because different verticals provide different data. They don't want to share the data, but they can actually build their own model and actually share the inferences via the agents. So we have a platform where you actually train your model. It's called ASI Train, where all these models will be owned by the community, built by the community, trained by the community, and they will all feed into this kind of LLM-based agentic system where if you, for example, you want to get a financial review of a ticker symbol, either in crypto or non-crypto or in equities, you can actually get a full detailed response from a specialist model, but you have to pay for it. And the payment goes to the community or payment goes to the people who put it together. So that's another layer of machine learning AI models that we're building. And then you have the compute, of course. So you can actually deploy all of this on the compute. You can actually pay for the compute in FET token. So that's the whole tech stack.
I appreciate that explanation. And what do you think? What do you think that or what do you envision that this sort of AI economy looks like over time that you guys are basically building out?
The AI economy looks like we should not have any websites. People get very excited about operator model because it goes and operates websites. If you look at what the agents are for, you should not have websites because why have a website? You have a universal user interface. Anything you want to do from the website is accessible from this user interface. Your agent can go and do all of those things that you need from it. You can do research, it can do action, it can actually bring you multiple, you can actually execute on it, you can actually buy and sell things. You can do all of those things. So why do we need these gazillions of websites? I mean, it's a waste of resource. So I think that trend is going to be that we're going to transition from websites and e-commerce websites to agentic systems, where these agents will represent businesses or multiple agents will represent businesses. We're already seeing that infrastructure coming in place. So organizations are actually building their own agent workforce, which will replace the websites and a lot of the workforce because it can automate, it can intelligently decide. And ultimately, we will have a new form of e-commerce, which I think you'll see quite a lot of overlap with the decentralized space because the digital currency space will be quite interesting in that space. So it's going to be, if we do it right and if we play it right, and if crypto stops messing about with just useless rug pulls, then at some point we will see that transition happening and crypto actually getting into mainstream utility.
Yeah, that's interesting. We got like a little bit over 5 minutes left. I want to get a couple quick questions in here. What do you think as far as like how do you look at tokenization? Do you feel like there is some sort of unique value add that you guys could bring to the market with tokenization and LLMs, or is that sort of not even in your are you thinking about that at all?
The first thing we have to think about is utility.
Hmm.
A lot of people think a lot about tokenization and decentralization and then realize that it's actually not feasible. So I don't think it that way. I think it the other way. I think, is there utility? Are people going to use it? That is always my first question. And if people are going to use it, how can I make it better in terms of the ownership of data, ownership of agents, ownership of models, ownership of compute? Now, tokenization is very important because, I mean, if you start right from the bottom, you start from the data. Data can be tokenized. Why tokenize? What is the purpose of tokenization? I think it's a reward incentive mechanism. It's the ownership mechanism. So every piece of this puzzle needs to have some ownership if we're going to do something with it. And in the old way, we have these big companies, but we are, as we can see, gig economy is growing. Developers are developing, indie developers are getting growing, indie games are growing. I mean, people are traveling and working from wherever they want to work from. So that freedom is coming. So you can see that incentivization needs to be linked with some kind of tokenization. So I see that as a very important thing. But I think the main thing we need to focus on is utility. Are people going to use it?
Yeah, without utility, like you mentioned before, it's a lot of these projects are nonsense. There's maybe 40 or 50 in my opinion that are building something of value. So and that's really like I mentioned before, what I'm interested in. How do we, become a more efficient world and build products and push Web3 forward? So I appreciate a lot of your explanations.
If we don't build something useful, ultimately people will get bored of this pump and dump. And, we're getting a bad reputation every single cycle. Everybody goes crazy. We crash. I mean, everybody knows it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I actually think that's sort of we're almost too it's too easy. Like we've made it too easy for some people to get into the space, I guess. The utility of the technology for anyone to build a company has almost caused us some burdens. But just to move on to
One of the
in the effort to get through all the last question here, we only have like 150 seconds or something. Um, do you do you want to tell us a little bit about your 2025 roadmap? Sorry to rush you through that, but
Yes, 20 we have released the full roadmap for ASI, and it's I mean, I can quickly take you through it. So we plan and intend to do a lot of interesting stuff in terms of AI to AI communication, negotiation, interaction. We're building models which can interact with each other. I mean, Singularity and Ben Goetzel from ASI and Singularity is kind of really core person who's doing all the research on it, and we have products which are coming out. We then have the framework for the agents, which is growing and growing, and the Web3 applications that we're building, which are now going to be coming out in this year. The real applications. I mean, of course, we released the LLM. There's going to be a whole roadmap of improvements on that front. We're adding more and more to our compute, um, so we can train more and more. ASI Train is about to be released, where we have talked about it and we have discussed it in detail. How are we going to train all these models and how people will own these models? So the main initiative that's coming out is the ownership transfer of these valuable models to the community.
Yeah, is this space evolves the idea of what property is and how property evolves is going to be very interesting in the ownership in this, in Web3. Super interested in what you guys are building.
I just wish people stop owning useless coins with no
Right.
utility and rather actually become participants in the AI revolution and own piece of these models, because that's what's going to become valuable.
I couldn't agree more, sir. I appreciate you coming on today, and I hope I get to talk to you in the future. And I wish you guys nothing but the best this year and moving forward.
Thank you. Would love to speak, hopefully in a few months.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out. Thanks for coming on. Hang
Thank
on
you.
1 second. I'll say a proper goodbye.